Welcome back to On the Rise as Canada tops Group B following a 2-0 win over El Salvador thanks to goals from Jonathan David and Tajon Buchanan in an absolutely wild and bizarre game against El Salvador, a side that played very aggressive, very physical, and not physical within the limits that saw them get 2 red cards and play to injure Canadian players, which was very unfortunate to watch because Canada wasn't able to play a real football game. They weren't able to play that liquid and fluid football that Jesse Marsch wants to see from this Canadian side. And yes, there were still multiple takeaways from this match between the lineup, how Canada was able to play when facing adversity and playing against a low block. There was multiple takeaways which we will break into and will dissect. But before we jump into the reaction, the breakdown of this game, drop into the comments, guys. Let me know your thoughts from this wild and crazy game between Canada and El Salvador, which saw 2 red cards. Smash that like button. It really helps the video as well as the channel, guys, and hit that sub button for the best Canadian men's national team content as we move closer to 700 subscribers. But this game saw Canada win 2-0, and yes, it looked like a very easy game on paper, with Canada managing a total of 80% possession and having 14 shots to El Salvador's 2. But it wasn't as easy as the stats show, with El Salvador being down to 2 men in that first half. And yes, it was a game that Canada utterly dominated across this game. Possession-wise, controlling this match, shots, chance creations, it was all Canada throughout the entirety of this football game. But for many reasons, it was down to the way El Salvador played. El Salvador played physical, but way over that limit of playing physical. El Salvador went out and tried to injure Canadian players. And it all started right from the first kickoff. Going after Richie Laryea, then going after Jacob Schaffelberg, going out after Luc de Fougerolles. There was intent to injure Canadian players. And I'm all fair for playing on the edge, playing with that physical nature that some sides like to do, to slow down the rhythm, to try to get under a US, a Mexico, a Canadian type of team's skin so they can't play that fluent football they want to. But you don't go out and try to play to injure opponents, which is what El Salvador did, and unfortunately I lost a lot of respect for their national team tonight. But it was a game that, in that first half, was very hard to find takeaways from, was very hard to find any learning experience for this Canadian side when you're not able to play real football. You're not able to move the ball in any kind of flow. But the one big takeaway for this Canadian side has to be the way they battle. One major takeaway, because there was many, has to be the way they were able to battle through adversity and still come away with a 2-0 win. They could have scraped through this game. They could have got a ugly 1-0. They could have made it look really bad. El Salvador could have had a chance late to score if it was 1-0. But no, Canada managed to get that first goal. And yes, before that, they had multiple chances that went begging, which we will get to. But they managed to score that first goal, which was absolutely beautiful. And yes, you have to factor in that Honduras was down 2 players, but that's their own fault. You play against the players that are on the pitch. You play against the side that is out there against you. And it was a sublime pass from Mathieu Choinière into the feet of Jonathan David, who finished it absolutely fantastically and showed his class once again and why he leads this team and is the most important player in this Canadian men's national team. Scoring that opening goal was very big for Canada, and following that, it came from a beautiful play from Nico Seeger, which saw Tajon Buchanan score the second goal and put this game to absolute bed, with not having any worry to end this game against 8 men on the pitch and a goalkeeper. It was a beautiful spin from Nico Seeger and played a fantastic through ball into the feet of Tajon Buchanan, which saw Canada take the 2-0 lead. And it was a deserved lead because, like I said earlier, there was chances that went begging. Canada should have won this game 3-4-0, scoring goals and chances in that first half, and they just didn't do that. Jonathan David misses a penalty which never looked confident stepping up to and didn't really put any power and made it look very readable for the El Salvador goalkeeper. Also, before that, when they were still up to, I want to say, a full lineup. I might be wrong. This is being filmed right after the game, guys. There's so much going on. But Promise David had a beautiful chance. Played in from Derek Cornelius. Promise David has to finish that header. It's his bread and butter. It's right into the 6-yard box for a 6'5" striker. That's his sort of chance. This is a guy for Union Saint-Gilloise all season. Sometimes didn't get many opportunities in game, but when it came, he put them away. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to do that. But let's not beat up Promise David. He got his start for the first time since the Ukraine game and played very well at times. Had some decent hold-up play, had some good opportunities. And yes, it didn't go his way today. It wasn't his greatest performance. He should have had 1 goal and an assist to start that second half. But it was going to happen. He was going to have a rough game. He's not going to score every single time he gets on the football pitch. So let's just praise our players for being able to get through this adversity and being able to get that win against El Salvador. Because you can also point out other performances across the pitch. For me, 2 players that stood out and had a good performance was Mathieu Choinière and Nico Seeger. Yes, the first half, they were completely invisible, which is very unfortunate because Mathieu Choinière was sloppy on the ball, giving away possession, and they weren't keeping the pace of the game going that well. But there was a reason for that. They were never able to get the ball to them when El Salvador had their full-strength team because they were pressing right on Mathieu Choinière and Nico Seeger, not allowing Canada to play through the midfield, which didn't surprise me at all. But when they were able to get a foot on the ball, when they were able to try to create things, Mathieu Choinière and Nico Seeger were the reason Canada scored those goals. Beautiful balls from Nico Seeger, great work from Mathieu Choinière, and they started to pick up the pace of the game and started to speed it up as the match went on. For me, Nico Seeger probably was my man of the match, even though he didn't score. He got involved, got that beautiful pass for that second goal, which is all important because then Canada didn't have to go and press to get that third goal. They didn't have to go and push to get that winning second goal because Nico Seeger delivered it on a platter to Tajon Buchanan for that second goal. So then Canada didn't have to get that third goal, which is also important. But there were still some decent performances out there, albeit Canada was getting battered and kicked and bruised and absolutely torched across that football pitch. There's no reason to talk down about any of these Canadian players. The biggest negative for me from this game, my biggest positive was being able to battle adversity, being able to still get this win, and not making it a scrappy 1-0. My biggest negative had to be at 2-0 when this side wasn't able to create major clear-cut chances against 8 men on that pitch. Yes, you can say Canada's not really trying to go for that third goal. They're just trying to look to break down that low block, manage the game, and get away unscathed with no injuries. Because that's how I think that went. They weren't trying to truly press the envelope to get that third goal, to try to look for an extra third, to make it look even better. They weren't trying to do that. Canada was just trying to manage the game, keep possession in the opponent's half, knock it around, not let El Salvador get close to them, and cause any opportunities for an injury or for the chance of another injury. Because this game, Canada will be lucky to not have any injuries from. And that would be my only criticism. Not trying to press the envelope to try to get a third goal. Because yes, they're probing. Yes, they're looking at breaking down a 5-3 backline and setup. But they never could. Their biggest chance when they were up 2-0 was the Mathieu Choinière chance, which came outside the box and was an absolute rocket and was a great set of play, but that needs to happen more often. Canada needs to move the ball around a bit faster. Whether it's the back line, whether it's the midfield, Canada has to look to play the ball a bit quicker because when they come up against the Panama, when they come up against the Mexico, they're going to need to move the ball around quicker because they're going to be very, very smart tactically, defensively. And yes, they're going to play to a bit of a physical edge, but nowhere close to what El Salvador did. They're going to know how to slow the rhythm of the game down. Mexico knows how to do that brilliantly. So does Panama. And they're both very good tactical sides. Even Guatemala is, who Canada will face in the quarterfinals. Canada has to be able to move the ball quicker throughout the midfield. Whether that's Seeger, whether that's Choinière, they have to be able to rotate the ball a bit faster. Even the back line, it's got to come quicker to be able to move the midfield or back line of the opposition to allow your wingers, to allow your fullbacks to bomb on and create chances for them to open up the play. And even out wide, I have a big criticism of Jacob Schaffelberg for this. Tajon Buchanan was taking on his man very well, but Jacob Schaffelberg, for me, he has to be hitting in balls first time. So many opportunities, so many chances. Jacob Schaffelberg could have received the ball, pinged it in the box, first time, lead his man onto the ball, and so be it if the goalkeeper swallows it up, so be it if it gets cleared away. It causes havoc, it creates a chance, and that is something that needs to be worked on in this team. There's so many opportunities where there's first time crosses that aren't happening, and they need to come in and to play, and there needs to be those first time crosses from Jacob Schaffelberg, because I think a player like Tajon Buchanan does it very well, and even Richie Laray and Alistair Johnson need to get better doing it for this national team, I really do believe. But I think in general, this was a good performance. Yes, we didn't score more on an El Salvador side that was very poor, but we're out to injure Canada. We're down 2 men. Yes, a 2-0 result doesn't look amazing when you're up 2 men, but Canada missed a lot of chances. They weren't clinical, but they still battled adversity, got a big 2-0 win, and I'm very happy with the way Canada did and held themselves in this game. They didn't stoop down to El Salvador's level on a big way at times. Promise David, Richie Laray got involved, but there was never anything to the level of going out to injure an El Salvador player, which is what I'm very proud of this national team, to keep their heads up and not stoop to that level. But Canada wins 2-0 in a very good result for the Canadian men's national team against El Salvador, thanks to goals from Jonathan David and Tajon Buchanan. In general, I am very pleased of this result, as Canada now faces Guatemala in the quarterfinal of the Concacaf Gold Cup. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure to smash that like button. It really helps out the content. And hit that sub button for the best Canadian men's national team content. And as we move closer to 700 subscribers. See you guys for the next one. Peace.